So the other day I was working on a review for the infamous Billy and Mandy cartoon, which is long overdue, and during that I brought up some of my other favorite cartoons from my childhood that I've covered in the past year: Courage the Cowardly Dog and Codename Kids Next Door. Codename Kids Next Door was released in like the early 2000s, and it was like over 20 years ago now, which is just freaking insane. But in my video on it, I was mostly praising the series, but I also said that there are some things in it that wouldn't really fly today. Mainly the fact that there are some stereotypes and it does make fun of old people a lot, and the entire like kind of plot of the show is kids disobeying their parents and stuff, which it's not that straightforward. If you want to get more into that, then I recommend you watch my original video. It's very interesting, it's a very good video, and it's a very good show. I recommend you check it out. But looking over it again a few months later, there's actually a lot of things in it that I've noticed that if they were to be made today, people would be mad, but a different group of people. People would call this show woke if it were made today, and I can prove why. So let's start with the elephant in the room. What exactly does. Sorry, I could only use that term so many times before I die of brain deadness. But I guess the big question on everyone's lips is, what exactly does that term mean? Well, a lot of people argue that it doesn't really have a meaning, whereas others argue that it's anything that leans left politically at all. Now, what I think, my hypothesis on what it's supposed to mean, is that it's usually whenever left wing politics are integrated into something poorly. And so essentially what happens is a lot of people chalk it up to things like forced diversity or trying too hard to be progressive, which can still exist. It has happened many times where minority individuals dislike things that are meant to represent them because they are trying too hard or not really focusing on the right aspects. But then this is when the paradox emerges. You see, a bigot obviously wouldn't continue to be bigoted in a society that does not allow bigots to flourish. So what do? They metamorphosize. They simply masquerade as someone who, dislikes these things, not because they're progressive, because they're progressive the wrong way. Which is weird, because it's like you're gonna say that you don't like the forced diversity, but then you still don't like regular diversity also. It's a very complicated thing, and there's a reason I try to mostly steer clear of all this culture war BS. So for the sake of this video, when I say that something is woke, try not to think about any greater political terminology or anything, and just think a buzzword that chuds use when they get mad. So without further ado, let's dig our fingies into this shit show. Let's start with some low-hanging fruit. The main group is pretty diverse, which is a pretty common thing in cartoons, but still something people get mad about. And something that I literally just now, like right this second, realized is that none of them, sure, some of them are American and some of them are white, but none of them are both actually. Kooky and Abby, the two girls of the group, yes, they're American, but neither of them are white. Hoagie is, I believe, Jewish, and for some reason Jewish is said to be not the same thing as white. Nigel and Wallaby are English and Australian, respectively, and though I can't be exactly certain about the citizenship of each and every character, still not a single one on the roster is like solely a white American. So there you have it, childhood ruined, case closed, Codename Kids Next Door hates white people. Blah! Obviously, that was a joke. Of course, it doesn't actually hate white people. There are plenty of white characters in the show, like, for example, the leader of the organization, 362. Hey, wait a minute. She's a girl! Oh no, I'm gonna catch cooties! So yeah, Codename Kids Next Door has a strong independent woman leader. Wow, mind blowing. Something that I think is really funny is the thought of like, what if Critical Drinker watched Operation Zero and they got to like the part at the beginning where Nigel disobeys orders, so 362 is like getting mad at him and he's just like, oh, clearly the show's trying to push its agenda of female dominance, because clearly she's angry at him in this scene, despite the fact there's context and nuance and a lesson to be learned at the end of the day. And 362 and 1's relationship is very well written. Sometimes the rules get in the way and they're at odds with each other, but at the end of the day, they're still friends and they build each other up. They're not really like romantically with each other because, well, it doesn't have to be. Oh, and remember that cooties joke from earlier? That wasn't just a joke. There is actually an episode about cooties. Well, less about cooties and more making fun of how silly the concept of cooties actually is. And let's not forget Operation Future, one of my all-time favorite episodes, somehow simultaneously one of the most progressive and offensive things that they've ever done. The story revolves around an evil girl who hates all boys, so he creates a future in which they've all been wiped out, but a good girl defects over to the boys' side and helps defeat her. It is a great episode, and I talk about it much more in my other videos, so please go watch that if you still haven't already. And this isn't even the only girl-centric storyline. There are numerous moments throughout the show where Number 4 is forced to confront his own sexism. If this were Netflix, that wouldn't happen. The episode Operation Caked 5 is very woke. The whole plot is that there's like a giant space station. It's kind of like the Death Star, except it's made out of ice cream cake. Like just actual straight up fucking ice cream cake. The real reason modern cinema is failing is not wokeness, it is a lack of ice cream cake Death Stars. Then we meet this guy named 19th Century who's from the, like, he was cryogenically frozen, so he's from the 19th century, but, like, his name is also 19th century. I don't know, that doesn't matter. But because he's from the past, he hates women. He just like me, for real, for real. And throughout the episode, he is stuck with 86, and he repeatedly keeps telling her, "Man, I sure dislike women, except for when they get with me." And 86 is like, "You shut up, you blockhead. That's wrong." So clearly, the show is trying to say that all men are bad. Now, I wouldn't really call 86 one-dimensional, but she is overall, like, kind of a dick. I mean, even in the show itself, they at one point allude to the idea of calling her a bitch. But the thing is, 19th Century is also kind of a dick. But the episode itself is mainly about them gradually learning to get along with each other, and they even develop a bit of, like, a thing at the end, but 86 does end up decommissioning 19th Century because, well, that was protocol. But without a doubt, the most obvious woke thing in all of Codename Kids Next Door is the Season 6, from the final season, the Season 6 episode Operation Caramel. The villain of the episode, Heinrich, who's like a Indiana Jones villain parody, except instead of wanting the Ark of the Covenant, he wants candy. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. But anyway, he is able to use this magic spell to extract all the main character's best trait and turn it into caramel. And at the end of the episode, it's revealed that Heinrich once had his caramel taken away, and once his is restored and he was transformed into his true self, we find out that the entire time he was actually a girl. And actually, when I first saw this, I was so shocked. I did not see it coming, and when I initially thought about it, like, given the context with magic and caramel and spells and stuff, I wasn't completely sure. And the thing is, though, some people say that this doesn't really have anything to do with gender. The curse was mainly about greed and gluttony, and that's kind of the whole point. And maybe, but the thing is, nevertheless, it's still a character that's one gender becoming a different thing, shown to be not a specific gender. It's kind of like the whole Shizao situation. And if you pay very, very close attention to the subtext, it is a story about a character being one gender and trapped in the wrong body for many years. Sure, there's magic involved, and Henrietta was Henrietta before being Heinrich, but still, nevertheless, it's about a person stuck in the wrong body. This episode was co-written by Ben Wilgus, who is a trans author. So really, no matter what way you want to spin it or interpret the story, and it's fine to interpret it different ways, and even if this wasn't intentional, nevertheless, the inherent transness of the story is something that exists. It is there, and it always was there. And a lot of people view life through this weird rose-tinted glasses, blinded by nostalgia, wishing, oh, why can't things be like the good old days? But this kind of goes backwards also. I kind of hate it whenever people say things like, what has society come to? Bro, society has always sucked. You just never realized until now. I know I'm trying to say how this episode was really progressive and ahead of its time and stuff, but there's also a scene in this exact same episode where they go to the Mexican sector and then Heinrich takes one of their caramels and whenever he eats it it's too spicy for him. Ah, there you are, 2000s. You show this cartoon to someone with the red pill dude bro ideology and ask them what about it is political, they'd say all the things I just mentioned in this previous video. But you know what they wouldn't say? An entire actual century-long war, bioweapons, elections, even an entire episode criticizing capitalism. I know that Codename Kids Next Door is just a cartoon and it's not real, but people with opinions like that actually do exist, and unfortunately they're a lot more common than you'd think. Star Wars was always political. It always had Vietnam and Nazi imagery woven into the story, but God forbid a femoid step on screen. Oh no, not a vagina haver. And I'm not saying the new Star Wars movies are good. I sure as hell know I didn't like them. What I'm saying is bad faith criticism is still bad faith criticism. It's fine to have opinions and think what you want to think, but just stop trying to make it seem like everything is political, that everything is woke. What am I saying? Of course it is. Much better. All these red pill sigmas claiming to be free thinkers, they're just as brainwashed as the rest of them. Only I can see the truth. Only I know of the liberals' treachery. They've been here since the beginning, trying to control us. The villain is a man, woke. The most powerful is a girl, woke. I am the victim. They're all after me. I've done nothing wrong. I've only done in reaction to what they have done. Hate, 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 hate. All I ask for is freedom. My freedom of speech to spread the truth that you must be destroyed, that you're a blight on this society, that you're the real reason this country is failing. I am the chosen one, the prophet, the only true critical thinker left in this godforsaken world. I am the one who will now and forever be known as Bad Worst. You wouldn't want someone like that in your YouTube recommends. Why have them in office? The culture war is a trivial and ridiculous thing, and it should not bleed into serious, real politics, but the fact is, it does. The election is coming up. I don't want to tell you how to vote or what you should believe, but I will tell you this. Your actions matter. Your voice matters. And even if you think things don't affect you, they do. This is no longer about cartoons and movies. There are very real people whose lives could be in danger if this election goes a certain way. And you have the power to stop that. So when you're standing at the polls ready to cast your vote, remember these words. I want you.